name's Scott Mizak, application engineer here at CAD Technology Center. Today, we're going to talk about annotative text, how it deals with MText, dimensioning, and MLeaders, multi-leaders. So today, we're going to talk about first how to create annotative text, then the scaling options, how to make text visible or not visible based on what scaling you have your drawing at. We're going to talk about adding new scales to text, deleting scales from text, and how you can have a text be in one spot at one scale and another spot at a different scale. We'll see the benefits to that. We'll look at the benefits of annotative text when it comes into play with layout space or paper space, and how I can have 5, 6, an infinite amount of viewports and have them all at a different scale and have that text always show up at an 1/8 inch or 100th, whatever text height you want it at. Instead of saying, oh, wait, no, I need this viewport at 40 scale or 1/4 inch, and I need this one at 1/8 inch or 100 scale, but I need the text to always be this height. With standard text, you didn't have that capabilities. With annotative text, we do have that capabilities. So we're going to look at that. We're going to then look at the advantages of multi-leaders versus the old school Q leaders or just leaders, and why people should be using multi-leaders now. So to start, when you create text, you just go in there under the text style, and you'll come over and you'll just say new. I created one. It was called CTC. It was using the Arial font, regular, where I had capabilities of bold, italic. But the key to make it annotative is you just have to make sure that the annotative is checked here and what height you want it in paper space. That's the key right there. When it comes to dimensioning, it's about the same thing. You'll go through your lines, your symbols and arrows, but on the text tab, what we want to do is we want to use the text style, in this case the CTC text style from here. I just want to apply it here. And then I do have the capabilities of doing a slight override, so I can come in and say the text height here will be in 1800s. And then there's a few other tabs in there, but this tab right here is the critical, obviously, when it comes to annotative text. Scaling. Obviously, annotative text, the power of it is the ability to scale it. There's a couple options in here to have it scale or not scale, and that's what this first icon here, it's basically the cross-section of a scale with a little circle right in there. What this does is it will display the text in its original scale if it's turned on. And if the drawing is set to that scale, that has not been added to the text. So basically what this is saying, the little sentence underneath it, is with this on, or blue, if I have my annotative text set up to be 1/4 scale, 1/8 scale, 3/16 scale, if those 3 scales are assigned to that text, it will show up at the appropriate scale based off of here. Like in my screen cap, this is set to 1/4 scale. Now, with this turned on, say I had those 1/4, 1/8, and 3/16 scales. Let's say I had a scale at 1 inch equals 1 foot, so 1 to 1. With this turned on, if that 1 to 1 wasn't assigned to the text, it would show up at 1/4 scale, or whatever scale this annotative text was assigned first. So it's going to show the first original scale, and that's what the first 2 lines stated. If this is turned off or grayed out, and I was at 1 to 1, and that text only had the 1/8, 1/4, 3/16, it would actually be turned off or become invisible. And so it's a way of hiding text at certain scales. And that's what this first one does. So the text will disappear if the drawing is at a scale that has not been added to the text and if this is turned off. So that's what the last part of that paragraph states. The next one is, I call it the cross section with the lightning bolt. If this is turned on or blue, basically anytime I switch scaling in my drawing, it will automatically add it to all texts that are annotative. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. Depends on what you're doing. And if it's turned off, it will obviously will not automatically add text. So that text I've been talking about, quarter, 3/16, eighth, that's all fine and dandy. I want only those three. Well, if I have to switch my drawing to half-inch scale, but I don't want half-inch scale to be added to my text, I need to make sure that this is turned off. This one right here, turned off. We got one question here. Where else can we manipulate this option? Basically, I got to believe turning on and off. You should be able to go on into, click on the text and right-click and go into annotative scaling options. That would be one way to add or delete text. There's a good possibility because since all these features right here are AutoCAD based, there's just a good possibility that you're just not seeing them and you just have to turn them on. And I will go in and I will show you how where to turn those on and off at. So maybe that's all you have to do. But yeah, then the second option is what I did was I clicked on one of the texts that was annotative. I right-clicked and I said annotative object scale, and then I had the ability to add current scale, delete current scale, add delete scale, and then synchronize multi-scale positions. What that would do is, I'll talk about this later, but if I had the ability to move text, and maybe I moved quarter-inch scale to a different spot because it would fit in this area, but when it was at eighth scale, because it's bigger, it wouldn't fit. So maybe by moving it, the synchronized multiple scale positions just allows everything to come back to one original spot. But as soon as I come back and say add delete scales right here, it will give me this list. And I can see my text right here. It has the scales of quarter, eighth, and 3/16. Those are the three scales that this text will take. So when this is turned on, this one right here, and I'm at any scale of those three, I'll see the text. If this is turned off and I switch to another scale, it will disappear. If I'm at a different scale, like half-inch scale, and I switch this and it's on, it will remain at quarter scale. And then, so I can add more scales if I want manually. List all scales for selected objects, that's what I have. But then I also have the ability to say list scales common to all selected objects. So maybe I selected 6 different texts, and maybe 3 of them had half-inch as one of their options. This would just list everything in there. Positioning, just talked about that on the last screen with the synchronizing multi-positions. What this does is this little screen cap, it has that same text at quarter, 3/16, and eighth. And when I select on it, it shows me where each one of the positions are at. If I deselect it, so I didn't have any of the grips on, it would only show the current scaled text. It's only when I have it selected that I will see every scaling option. But the ability to adjust the location can be very crucial. So what I can do is I can take that same text and I can spread it out. So I have 1/4 inch scale right here. I have 3/16 inch scale right here, and I have 1/8 inch scale right there. So what does this mean for the end user? Well, what this does is it allows me to place text where it's visible based on its scaling. So what I have right here is I got a screenshot of my 1/4 inch text inside a box. This box represents the building that CTC is currently in right now. So it fits. But what happens if I have to go to 1/8 inch scale? Well, that text, as you can see, is much larger than the box. So in doing so, I can't keep the text inside that box because it just won't fit. So I have the ability to move it, because moving it outside the building footprint makes it legible. So when I go into paper space to plot, it looks good. So again, it allows the user to move the text for aesthetics of the drawing. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Viewports. I have one viewport set at 1/4 scale, another viewport set up at 1/8 inch scale. I had that same box in both of them. I have the text, and as you can see, even though the viewports are different scaling, my text comes out and it's the same height because I told it as annotative text. It needs to plot out at 1/8 inch lettering. So in Paperspace, I see that my text is the same height, even though my viewports are at different scaling. And if I click on one of my viewports and go to right-click and go on Properties, I can see that this viewport, the annotative and standard scaling, is set at to 1/8 inch equals a foot. Once you do that, once you get this set up, I recommend that you lock the display. So I would turn this no right here to yes to keep it locked at 1/8 inch scaling, just so you don't accidentally go into floating model space and then zoom in or out and wreck the scaling. Because if you had that first icon turned off, it would say, hey, this scale isn't available for this text, and it would actually make it disappear. I don't know how many times I've had someone do annotative text and they're saying, hey, I can't see my text in the viewport, and we click on the properties of the viewport and it's not at a scale that's acceptable to the annotative text. So once you get the viewport set to the scale you want, make sure you lock them. Prevents people from screwing things up on accident. Because you think, oh, I just zoomed in 2 roller clicks. Hey, if I zoom out 2 roller clicks, I should be in the exact same spot. Well, you're not. It's going to be off by a fraction. MLeaders. MLeaders, cool little tool. Advantage of the MLeaders, the ability to add extra leaders. We might want to see one call out but have it point to 3 different objects. Well, with the old-fashioned leaders or queue leaders, you had to come in and create 3 brand new leader lines. Put text on one of them, but leave the text blank on the other 2. And then you had to move it. Well, if you move the text, then you had to remove all 3 leader lines. Pain in the butt. So adding extra leader lines is nice because, and you'll see this, if I'm on the right side of the text, it will actually establish the leader line connection to the right side. As soon as I get to the left side of the text, it will actually then adjust the leader to be on the left-hand side. And if I can add a leader line, I can also remove a leader line. So I might have had 7 or 8 in there, and then there was a design change, and now instead of 8 houses, there's only 6 houses. So I only need to call out the building pad for 6 instead of 8, or maybe if you're in architectural, maybe I'm calling out door frames, door jambs for what size door is going to be suitable in this. And then the next cool feature is the ability to align leaders. And what I have is that icon right there gives me the ability to select a handful of leaders and then say align. And what it'll do is it will take the first one I pick, because it'll ask me what do you want to align it on, and then it'll align everything vertically or horizontally. Just got a question. Can the multi-leader lines be on both opposite sides of the text? Yes, and I'll actually demonstrate that here in a couple minutes. So let's go ahead and jump into the software and see how things are done. So what I have here is I have a typical box. And I need to put text in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly jump to the standard text. And I'm going to add some text in here. So I'm going to do the standard command MText. Give it a location. And I'm going to say CAD Technology Center, Golden Valley, Minnesota, 55427. It fit pretty nicely because I actually had the standard text to always be 6 inches in height. So when it comes into scaling, it's going to be 1/4 inch scale. Perfect. Hey, as long as I don't have to change my scale, I'm good. But hey, lo and behold, yep, I now have to change my scale from 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. So let's take a quick peek at what happens. Well, I'm going to go 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. Nothing changed. Well, when I plot this out in paper space, it's going to be wrong. So there is my text. Let me quickly change the viewport here. Viewport properties. 1/8 inch scale, because it's based off of there. We're going to make 1/8 inch scale. I'm going to lock it. That way I can't screw it up. Oops, got to unlock it really quick. I thought I had my darn taskbar. Let's unlock this really quick. Find my text. Relock it. Make sure I'm still at 1/8 inch. I don't want to screw it up by accidentally panning. So if I come in and zoom in on this, and I do a dimension, and I click from here to here. Oops. Let's do a DI. We'll make it simpler. I see that my text height is actually 0.0625. Well, not too bad. I mean, 0.0625. So I was off by 3/10,000ths of a measurement. But I need that text to be an 1/8 inch. So what I have to actually do is I have to come back into my text here, and now I have to update the scaling here. So instead of text height of 6, it now has to be text height of 12. Well, that's a pain in the butt, because you have to go through every text and modify it. And now I see that it doesn't fit, so now I got to rearrange and maybe drop it into here. Now if I measure that text, I get 0.1251. So that's standard text. You have to, if you have to change your scale of your drawing, it's going to automatically change. Or it's not automatically going to change. You have to physically go in and manually change it. So what we want to do is we want to create our own text. So what we're going to do is come in down to the text icon, hit the little angled arrow, and we're going to say new. And we're going to call it CTC. And we're going to say OK. Pick on CTC. I'm going to use the font type Arial. I'm going to use the font style regular. Key is I want to make it annotative, and I want my text to be 0.125. Say apply, and I want to set it current. Say close. So now what it does is it puts CTC up here as the default, and now I can come in and do MText again. I can see that in my command line, current text style, CTC, text height, because it knows that my scale is at an 1/8 inch. It's going to say, oh, your text height has to be 12. Annotative, yes. So I'm going to come in and put it here. And now we'll do annotative text webinar. Right now, show annotative objects at current scale. This is turned off. I'm going to turn it on really quick. And then add scales to annotative objects. I'm going to turn this on really quick. So what this does now is I'm currently at 1/8 inch scale, so I'll take a peek at this. Annotative object scale, add delete scale. Only 1/8 inch is available. So I'm going to say OK. But if I switch this to include 1/4 inch scale, not only did my text automatically scale down to 1/4 inch, but because I had this first one checked, when I look at it, I now have 1/4 and 1/8 inch scale available. If I turn this off, and I now switch to 3/16 scale, my text jumped back up, but it jumped to 1/8 inch scale. So if I look at my properties, it says annotative scale 1/8 inch, because that was the original scale that I put in. If I look at the annotative scaling again, 3/16 is not in there. Even though I assigned 3/16 to my drawing, because this icon right here is turned off, it will not display. Now the next thing is again, this displayed at 1/8 inch scaling, because that was the first one I picked. Even because I'm at 3/16 scale, the only reason it showed 1/8 inch scale is because I had this icon right here turned on. If I turn this off, that text is going to disappear. Because what that did was it said, make visible, show annotative objects at current scale. Well, because 3/16 isn't a current scale, it's not going to display. I turn this back on, it shows. Having this turned off and having a layout space with multiple scales is a godsend. You might have a city block for your area. Well, you got to show that at 100 scale. Well, you want some text to only show up at 100 scale, but some text in a detail section to only show up at 40 scale, or 1/2 inch scale versus 1/4 scale. By having this turned off and having the scaling selected properly, I can have text turned on or off in the appropriate viewports. The other nice feature about annotative text is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this one, and you can see, because I clicked on it, it showed me the 4 locations for that text. So I have 1/4, 3/16, 1/8, and let's actually just look at what scales I have. 1/4, 1/8, 3/16, and 3/32. I have those 4 scales in there. By clicking on it, I see the 4 locations for each scale. The only one I can move right now is the one that is associated to the 3/16 scale, the one that's got the grip. If I switch, Get my taskbar off. If I switch to quarter scale and now pick the text, now I can only move the text that's quarter scale. I can only adjust that property. But the benefit to this thing is this text right here for quarter scale, right now its justification is middle center. Hey, that's perfect. I want it right in the middle of this box, centered. So I find out where the centroid of that box is, and I just snap the grip right to it. Well, I'm gonna leave my taskbar open from now on. But now on this text here for 3/16, its justification actually middle left. You have the ability to adjust how this text is going to display. The only thing you can't do is you can't change what the text says. This text always has to say CAD Technology Center, Golden Valley, Minnesota, 55427. I cannot change that. The text has to remain consistent. So placement, I can move that over to there, and it shows up just fine. Let's move it back. So it only shows up based off of the scale that's displayed here. Now, it's turned off. Let's go ahead and jump something to 1/64th. Again, because 1/64th wasn't a scale, it won't display. Got a quick question. Will SHX files work as well as TrueType fonts? They should. I haven't delved too much into using shape fonts. I like Arial. I deal with some other third-party softwares that like TrueType fonts more. So I typically stick with the Arial. I tell people just to delete out that simplex. It causes more harm than good when you're looking at third-party software. And then I have another question. Used to have a fit text in the area. Does Annotative do that as well? Well, let's take a quick peek. Let's switch this back to quarter scale. Get the one that's in the box. Text. Instead of middle center, I don't have the justification. Where is, oh God, it's been a while since I've done a fit command. Middle center. Direction. I'm not seeing my ability to change it to fit. So let's do this. Let's go back to standard. Oh, maybe that's why I'm using MText. So let's just use text here. Fit. Oops. Got ahead of myself there. Fit text style. Content standard, annotative justification, fit. So I did not have that option as with MText, so let me switch to, oops, my CTC text. Yep. So MText only works that way, but just using the standard text command, rotation angle, fit text. Oops. So there's my fit, invalid input. So No, it will not allow you to do a fit command based off of with annotative text. So. So that's annotative text. And if I look at this text box that I created here, let me erase these, get them out of the way. And I look at this in paper space, what I have is I have a 1/4-inch scale viewport, 1/8-inch scale viewport, 3/16 viewport, and a 3/32 viewport. Those 4 viewports have that same text that we're just playing with, and it's showing them all at the 4 different scales, but as you can see, my text is the same height in paper space. So it doesn't matter what scale I'm at, it will fit. And then I have this little viewport right here at 1/16, and because 1/16 wasn't an acceptable scale for that font, for that text, it didn't show up. Dimensioning, it's the same thing. Dimension text. I got an annotative here. We'll go ahead and say we'll create new. Copy of annotative, we're going to call this CTC. Start with annotative. It's always nice to start with something that's similar. Check it's annotative. Say continue. And we have our lines. We have our spacings in here. So it'll keep track of that on annotative on how big it is. We have our symbols and arrows. Nothing too fancy there. Size. Again, that will be scaled based off of annotation. But your text, here's the key that a lot of people miss, is they create the text style, but they use the standard text. Well, that standard text is going to not be annotative. So what you got to do is you got to make sure you click on it, and then you pick the appropriate dimension. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to set that current. I'm going to say close. So now you can see, because I set a current, CTC dimensioning is accurate. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to click here, get my snaps on, because we want a true dimension here. 101.0259. All right, it's 1/4 scale. I'm going to add and make them visible. So now anytime I switch my scales, it will automatically add it. And I'm going to go from 1/4 to 1/8 inch. Well, my text got larger. And if I look at it, annotative object scales, there is 1/4, there is 1/8 inch. If I click on it, I can see the placement at different scaling. So here, I want my text this far away, the dimension, at 1/8 inch, but at 1/4 inch, I want it closer. Placement, the location, is still acceptable and allowable within annotative text. Last thing I wanted to show was MLeaders here. And I got 3 buildings here, and I want to label out that they're just 1-story, 2x4 frame buildings. So in the old school days, I type in leader, and I'd say start point, and I go from the middle, and I'd go there. First line of annotative text. And I'm going to call it 1-story framed house. And there's my leader. Well, now I got to come in and I got to add it to this one. So I got to come in and say leader again. I'm going to plop it in at that midpoint. And now I got to snap to there. And I have to just escape out of my text. And maybe now I have to snap there to look like that. And then maybe I got to put one over here. But if I move this text, only that one leader line moves with it. So now I got to come in, I got to slide this over here, and I got to get this lined up. And now they don't look nice. So now maybe I got to come and snap it to here. So adjusting your leaders, pain in the butt. Absolutely pain in the butt using QLeader or leader. Well, what we have now is we have multi-leaders. And I'll go ahead and I'll use the annotative leader. And I'm going to say multi-leader. Oops. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to put one right there. And this is going to be one. This time I'll actually use all caps. One story framed. Simple enough. Well, now I need to add this one. Let's just go very simply, add leader. Select a multi-leader. I selected it, and all I have to do is place there. Now I can come down and I can place one there. All three are connected to one. If I move the text, it moves. And you can see, I'm going to move that right, turn my old snaps off, right there. The second that this endpoint got past the center point of my text, it automatically jumped the leader line to the opposite side of the text. If I move this back, have it jump, now I want to add another leader line, add leader. I'm going to add it to here. Here, it's on the right side of the text. As soon as I jump past the center point of that text, it automatically jumps to the next side. So I can have leader lines on both sides of the text. Simple as that. The one thing I recommend is when you're doing like leader lines is pay attention to your scale. I've had this happen before. Someone came in, TNH benchmark, 834.55. Called out a benchmark, and what they did was I'll move this up a little bit more. Then they came in and said copy, and they moved this benchmark over to here, and then I got another one here. And they went in and said, oh wait, I don't want quarter scale, I want 1/8 inch scale. Oh wait, my benchmarks are gone. And they came in and said, oh, crap, I must have had an error, I must have accidentally undeleted them. Came back in and then put the call out back in, TNH benchmark. And then they actually said, well, this isn't 834.55, this is actually 0.75, because that's the true height. And then they went in and they went around and they updated all of them. And what happened was, is someone came back in and said, oh wait, I don't need 1/8 scale, I need quarter scale. And when they went to quarter scale, that benchmark said, oh no, I'm at an 834.55, even though it was really a 75. It never got caught. Surveyors went out, and the whole site was off by, in this case, it was only 2/10 in my example, but in their case, it was actually off by about 2 feet, which made a huge difference. Luckily, they just came in and raised their surface up and all their points up the difference, but it was caught before it actually made it out the door. But you can see the power and the possibilities of error by having this one turned off and this one turned off. By switching scales, I may have thought I updated the text, but I really didn't. Or I thought the text just got accidentally deleted, but it really didn't. It was just hiding. So when in doubt, always have that first icon turned on. So with that first icon turned on, I would have saw, oh wait, there's 2 benchmarks here, 834.55 and 834.75. Whoa, wait a minute, one of them's wrong. What's wrong? Quick question, Is there an express tools for converting old leader notes to multi-leaders? I do not know. Never tried. I've always just started out with MLeaders. Anything that's already been created, typically you do better to just leave it as is. Why fight something that's already been done? Just know for the future, hey, when I'm doing a new project, switch to MLeaders. So that's multi-leaders. Oh, one last thing. Let me add in my align. I got two here. It's going to look funny because they're going to be definitely far away, but let me align these. So I'm going to come in and say align, select multi-leaders. So I'm going to select this one and this one. Select the alignment to align. I'm going to pick that one. F8. Pick there. It automatically lined up the left side of the note by picking on it. And as you saw when I was picking it, I had the ability to put what angle I want. So I'm not forced to go strictly vertical or horizontal. I could have come off at a 45-degree angle and had my notes just stagger upwards like a staircase. So there's any angle works. Just turn on F8 for ortho mode and it'll kick things out in any line you want or any angle that you want. So that's multi-leaders. Covered dimensionings, covered MText. The power annotative text, it can allow viewports to show different text at the proper heights or not show text at all. Multi-leaders gives me the ability to instantly assign different leaders and have it automatically attach, and then as I move my text, it automatically updates. It will automatically switch from the left side to the right side based on where I'm at in relationship to the center of the text. Opening up for questions right now. Scott, do I have any other questions?
Thanks, Scott. It looks like there is one other question that you didn't address while we were going through the webinar here, and if you have any more questions too, just those in the audience, please feel free to submit those. But someone was wondering if that was metric or imperial on the specific scale sizes, if that pertained to just metric or imperial.
Nope. Annotative text will be metric or imperial. It's your choice. It's obviously whatever template you opened your drawing with. I just happen to be in the imperial template coming from the United States. But I could have opened this drawing up in metric and I would have had millimeters or whatever the scaling options are. M1, M2, M10, like maybe for screw sizes. So it doesn't affect what you're in for units, metric or imperial. One thing I did forget to mention was that Civil 3D, any civil label that's generated is annotative. So if you're going 40 scale to 50 scale up to 100 scale, it's going to automatically adjust your label styles. So civil objects, all their labels are annotative right from the get-go. I was supposed to demo this in Civil 3D, but I chose just plain AutoCAD mainly because all civil objects are annotative. So just showing the basics, text, dimensioning, and then leader lines was enough to get the point across. So Scott, I heard your computer beep. It sounds like we got a few more questions.
Yes, Scott, we're getting a couple coming in here. Someone was wondering if you want to delete one of the leaders, can it be done without deleting the text?
Yes, we can actually do that. So let me actually jump back in. So I have 4 leader lines off this text right here. All I have to do is say remove leader. And the first leader I actually picked that I made, so this text was based off of this one. Click that one. Deleted it out. So even though that was the first one that the text was based off of, the multi-leader text said, well, I have other leaders in here, so I'm not gonna delete the text out. So yes, I do have the capabilities of removing leaders, and I'll remove that one. So now I still have the two, one story framed going in both directions. So I can, again, as soon as I get to either side, it updates.
Someone was wondering if these features are available with older versions of AutoCAD, such as 2008 or even maybe older.
2008, I don't think so. It's been a while since I've worked in 2008, to the point that I don't remember. I do recall our standard CAD practices back when I was using Land Desktop 2008 was that we picked the size of our drawing and say we want 50 scale. I set all my text up to plot out at 50 scale, and then if I had to switch to 60 scale, I do recall our company personally had to manually select all the text and then adjust it to plot at 60 scale. So back then we were using standard text and annotation. That doesn't mean that it wasn't available. It just means that our company at the time just didn't do it. Yeah, but offhand, I don't know. We have the list of all our questions. I can figure out when annotative text became officially available, and I can respond to you via an email. Any other questions?
Yes, Scott, someone was wondering if you could go over the important points of setting the annotative text style or text size.
The important points of setting the annotative text size. Sure. Basically, if you go into your text, you have CTC, Arial, regular. This right here, this paper text height, is the critical point. This is what is it's going to print out in paper space. As you saw when I did a distance inquiry of the height of my text, I was getting that 0.125 when it was properly annotative text. So I could come in and change this text to 0.25, and now anytime I use this CTC text style, when it plots out in paper space, it's going to come out as 1/4 inch scale. Now, on the standard size of text, I have a couple in here, 0.2, 0.125, and 6. Well, if I use standard text, for me to get that 6 in there, or maybe I had that other one that needs to be 12, I actually need to come in, and I believe the command is text style. Nope, text height. Now I forgot my command. It's text. Oh, I forgot my command. Mainly because I don't use standard text anymore. Justify text. I just had someone type in it. They said text HT. See, I thought it was text height, but it's not popping in for me. So let me try text HT. Try that again. Set unknown command. I knew what it was. Not the end of the world, because we don't want to use standard text anyways. We want to go to annotative text. But you could always just come up here and put a default text height. So default actually sounds. Nope. Oh well, we'll bypass that. Looks like we got a couple more questions.
Yes, someone was asking if if there's going to be a link to this webinar afterward, and for those of you who have to get going, that will be provided on our YouTube channel. Also, Scott, someone was wondering, can you show the dimensions at the various scale viewpoint ports just to show the arrowhead change size and the offset distance change?
I forgot to unmute myself. Almost started to talk without having a microphone. So yeah, just to see the arrowheads change. Yeah, we got here. Oh, let me add text height in here. So now if I switch my scaling, I'll jump this up to 330 seconds. And now you can see that this arrowhead is quite large. And the arrowhead on this one is actually so big that it won't even display until right about there. So we'll wrap this up really quick. We got a couple more webinars coming up. We got August 11th, so next week, talking about Navisworks, talking about Animator and Scripter within the software. On the 12th, we actually have another Bluebeam rep coming and doing a webcast with you, talking about estimations on how quickly it is to do estimations in Bluebeam. On the 13th, we're going to talk about AutoCAD plotting, so another basic AutoCAD class, talk about the power of CTB files versus STBs, object properties, and page setup. And then on the 19th, sorry about that. On the 19th, we're going to talk about AutoCAD Sheet Set Manager, the function and the setups. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Scott Zabilla, and he's going to talk about Midwest University.
Okay, and we've got a couple of questions here, so if you still have questions, keep those coming. I just want to bring your attention to Midwest University, which is coming up next March here in Minnesota, and we're looking for abstracts, class proposals. If you have maybe an AutoCAD tips and tricks class that you'd like to teach, or maybe how your firm has been using AutoCAD and maybe some of the workflow advantages that you've had or experienced on your projects, we'd love to have a class taught by you on that, and it'd be great to have you come and attend as well and really network with a lot of peers and a lot of colleagues in the industry, and many from the Midwest will be there, as well as many from around the nation. So more information can be found at midwest-u.com. And Scott, just a couple more questions here that we've had kind of piling in. We've got someone that's asking, is the behavior of leaders the same when changing a plane of work, meaning working in 3D? Or must we be careful on some things that we need to look out for?
Typically, when you're talking about annotative text, text is always displayed in plan view, so top view. I've seen many a times that you're not in true plan view. You're rotated by 1/100th of a degree, just enough that text won't display. So being in 3D, no, annotative text shouldn't work. If it does, then you must have a special version of AutoCAD. But typically, text displays best when it's in a plan view, or obviously front side view. But typically off of it, it's top. And then I forgot the one part when they were asking about adjusting arrowheads. Yeah, I could have come in and actually changed my arrowheads to, instead of being a solid fill, being a hollow fill, or being just crow's feet. And yes, that command to add the default text height was actually text size. So whoever sent that in, I thank you. Again, don't use standard text anyways. Go to annotative text.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today on this webinar, and please feel free to leave some comments on the survey and give us your feedback. We love to hear what you guys think about our webinars and what we're doing. And if you have any other questions that didn't get answered today or that come up afterwards, please feel free to email Scott or support@cadtechnologycenter.com. Give us a call, 952-941-1181. Thanks again for attending.